Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. This is Jessop's Journal.
Hey.
Hey, Joel, great to see you. Let's go chat.
Cool.
Joel, it's time to sign into Jessop's Journal.
Awesome. Honored. There you go.
Welcome to this episode of Jessop's Journal. You know, the thing that I look at is stories have power. They help us understand each other. And today we're going to understand this guy, okay? Joel McKay Smith. So Joel, number one, welcome to Jessop's Journal.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
We've known each other for a long time, and I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly where we met. It's been so long.
That might be a good thing.
Well, that is true. So do you remember how we connected initially?
I think the original connection was probably through your K-Jazz days. I'm a Lehi boy,
yeah.
And so some of the folks there, I probably met you through.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Going over to Amelia Earhart Drive. And
oh, yes.
Stuff like that.
Driving, yeah, yeah.
That's probably what it was.
Yes, I've been in broadcasting a couple years.
Yeah, late 80s, if I recall right.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah. So, what have you been up to lately?
I've really only had 3 careers.
Okay.
I was a dairy farmer.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. I remember when I was a kid, my parents were slightly concerned about their slightly rebellious son with the hair. You know, I do have pictures to prove that I had hair down to here, okay, just saying. And I used to haul hay and milk cows in the summer. Yep. So, hardest work I ever did. So, you're a dairy farmer. Okay. Next one?
I was in the hospitality industry.
I don't think I've done that one.
Yeah, so
okay.
Had bars, restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
Got involved in early computer programming, if you could call it that, with
Really?
Cash registers, connecting to folios, and I'd travel around and considered myself pretty nifty.
Yeah.
But for years and years, I had the opportunity of having a facility that hosted the Sundance Film Festival on a yearly basis.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
so.
Very cool. The thing that I'm trying to figure out and when I interview everybody is kind of where you came from and, you know, what makes you you. So first, let's start with, where did Joel McKay Smith grow up?
Well, I grew up in an area called Dry Creek in unincorporated Utah County, which is right now smack dab in the middle of Silicon Slopes and in Lehi.
Yeah.
My father was the drama teacher at Lehi High School.
Really? Okay, that explains a lot.
Yes, and we had an outdoor theater at our house, and so we had 3 to 4 productions on a summer schedule of community theater, and my mom taught elementary school, and so I was born to educators in a very, at that time, wild and unpopulated area of Lehi.
Yeah, I can believe it. We were talking a little bit off camera, and I was raised with the phrase, remember where you come from.
Yeah.
So you apparently have some interesting historical connections to that area.
Absolutely. If you've ever been to Hiha's, selfish plug for my cousins that run the old dairy farm, that farm has been in the Smith family since 1853.
Whoa.
So I believe it's 5 generations of Smiths. My cousin Kyle now runs it, and it's gradually, receded. You now got the void there and Evermore and everything that's super close to it. But it was an amazing upbringing because work ethic, the ability to fix anything, understanding that you had to do things, a screwed up sleep cycle for my entire life because of getting up in the middle of the night and everything else. It's an amazing experience that I've tried to infuse the same type of appreciation of hard work and out of doors with my kids as much as I can. But yeah, that's where I came from.
That milking, if I remember right with us, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But yeah, it teaches a different perspective, doesn't it?
3:30 and 3:30 for us.
Oh, really? Yeah. Now, that's, oh man, you need to teach those girls a little to sleep in.
So here's a funny, true story.
Yeah?
I started working the farm at 10. You would generally help grandma by helping her with the flowers and weeding and stuff like that. And it was one of those days where they didn't have anybody to go down and join the boys in the area by Mosita in Alberta. She threw me the keys to the hay truck.
And you were 10?
I was 10.
Okay, awesome, yeah.
Okay, Joel, just tell them agricultural exemption.
Yes, true.
which was
Oh,
good.
yes, I remember that.
Made sure that I was propped up. I'd already been driving on the farm and stuff like that. That was the first time in the hay truck. And she goes, "Can you handle this?" I said, "Yeah, it just might take me a little while." And so
So how many phone
drove.
books did you?
It wasn't a phone book. She used, I think it was actually, it may have even been a potato bag or something.
How the heck did you get to the pedals?
Kids can be industrious.
I guess. Yeah. Well, as long as you're doing it on the hayfields, okay. Yeah, I'm not so sure you want to be on the freeway.
There were pull throttles.
Oh yes.
And stuff like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but no freeway. I mean, at that time there was very few people that lived on the west side of Utah Lake, and so just went down on some of the roads, dirt roads. Went down. Probably took me 15 minutes more than it would have, but I'd been down there, so I knew how to get there. And from that time forward, I had my road wheels, and it was agricultural exemption. Don't know if you could pull that off now, but it's still pretty cool.
If you had to pick a life lesson, is there something that you learned as a kid that now granted our kids may or may not listen to exactly what we say, but is there something that stuck with you that said, okay, this is something that I was raised with my family, my grandparents, whatever, that I've wanted to pass on to your kids?
When an elder tells you to stop, stop. There was a situation where I was just being careless with a silage wagon when my grandpa was underneath it, and he yelled, "Stop!" Wiggled out. I had wiggled it just enough that it fell off the jack stand, and it would have crushed him.
Oh my goodness.
And from that moment forward, I understood that if someone says stop, it generally means that you need to listen to what they're doing, because something impending could happen. And with my kids, I've tried to, again, infuse them with an appreciation for their elders. And there might be a reason that they're telling you or asking you to do something.
It's not always, but you kind of think that with age, sometimes that little wisdom thing rubs off.
We're not all stupid.
Yeah, well, let's hope not. Yeah. What's something that you learned in the hospitality thing that people might not realize?
A quick way to make a small fortune in the hospitality bar restaurant business is start with a large one.
Okay, we're all going, what? Oh, man. Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's a tough industry, even tougher now.
With
what's going on with COVID and everything else.
So now you're basically kind of in the software side of things, but your hands are in a lot of things. I tease people and I says, okay, I know this one guy. He is what I call the king of connections. Yeah. So in the broadcast business, we kind of, there's a phrase, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Well, in broadcasting, it's more like 3 because it's a pretty tight community. However, I understand that you might even have me beat on the 3 connections.
I am 1 degree of Kevin Bacon.
Oh.
Footloose was filmed in Lehi and Payson my senior year in high school. My dad was the drama teacher. So I was routinely aware, familiar at the shoots and everything else. I mean, it's rumored there's a split second to the side of my face, but I don't believe it anymore because that person was much skinnier than I am. But it's and of course the Bacon brothers played up into Harry's and and everything. So I mean, the whole analogy though of 1 degree of Kevin Bacon is that since I was very young, I've had the ease of gab and meeting people because of my father. And I've had almost like an echoic ability to recall faces and names. And so that's really the reason. It's not that there's any sort of special gift of being a super connector or anything else like that. It's just intuitively, that's the way that I've been since I was very, very young.
To you, what is the definition of networking?
There is no relationship that doesn't have value. There is no introduction that doesn't have value. But if you can find within a short period of time, if you are going to be of value to one another, that is networking in the form of elimination, because there might not be any reason socially, business, ecumenically, or anything else that you identify with this person. But if you have an opportunity to introduce them to someone or pass them off that you can perceive that would enjoy their company, that's a way that you can walk away from what is not likely going to be a relationship that you would perceive to be a value of your interests. That's the epitome of networking.
Well said. I'm impressed. Okay. Because, it's interesting. In my line of business, I meet lots and lots of people. And, I admit I'm good at faces, not so great at names necessarily, but, and then being in the public eye, people will come to see me and I'm going, okay, I'm trying to remember who is that. Do you have any kind of memory tricks or anything that you use to help remember people?
At one time when I was younger, I would say their names in my mind, and that was a thing for my dad, a trick from super learning, 7 times, because if you have the echoic response of someone's names 7 times and you can associate it with their face, that's something that can allow you to be able to have that name programmed in your mind.
Okay.
But as I got older, it just became more of an intuitive, I wouldn't call it a skill, both curse and gift.
Yeah, I could hear that. Okay. I get to pick and choose everyone that I interview on Jessop's Journal. And partly, you and I have known each other from the networking stuff, but there's another thing that you and I kind of share I guess we'd call it a passion for trying to illuminate certain topics that sometimes just aren't talked about. Okay?
I have 3.
Okay.
I'm extremely passionate about rural America and the restoration of our main streets, which have been decaying for decades.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I primarily do for my day-to-day business. Could I do a quick call out to my 2 companies as
Of
well?
course you can.
Okay, Accelerant Business Solution Providers is the company that works in the rural communities, and Neo-ITO is a multinational technology and application company based out of India that we're looking at different ways to be able to help out startup companies. Anytime I run across an instance of someone struggling with bipolar disorder, I volunteer and will gladly intercede, provide insight. I've walked more than one into a clinical position because I'm bipolar.
Okay,
And many of my family members are as well. So that's a passion, and I wouldn't say it's an organized mechanism of a support group or anything else, but when I can see something going when somebody's a little bit off, I might be able to step in and make their manic episode be a little bit shorter.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that, but let's say, what's your 3rd passion item?
Neurodiversity, the ability to provide employment for this incredibly brilliant class of people that's been referred to as autistic and Asperger's and spectrum and everything else, is something that I've recently been given the opportunity to be associated with an organization that's in 9 different countries. I legitimately sit in, not a peer by any means position, but in the same organization with Richard Branson and some amazing people. Wow. And it's called Audicon, and they've recently come to Utah, and they've successfully set up shop here. And those folks are brilliant. They do pattern recognition, all sorts of different things with business intelligence. And it's marvelous in the little way that I can help this organization help the neurodiverse is something that I'm as passionate about as my bandwidth will allow.
The thing that people don't realize is that the unemployment rate for the autism community is insanely high.
88%.
And it shouldn't be. Differences exist, yes, but those don't have to separate us. Those can actually get us together. I do want to go a little bit back to the mental health and bipolar thing. What is bipolar?
Bipolar disorder is a chemical imbalance in different portions of the brain that manifests itself in forms of what people would call clinical depression, or some people would call hypomania, which is on the higher side of where people are solving the world's problems, and they have amazing amounts of energy. Sometimes will not sleep. That's the category that I've been in, and I've had the dishonor, so to speak, of having in my lifetime about 4 major manic episodes since about 1990, and I've had an amazing support structure, in particular my amazing wife and family, and without them, I'd probably be dead.
Well, the last time I checked, the brain is attached to the rest of the body.
Absolutely.
And for some reason, people will think, well, that's a character flaw, or that you've got this or this. I know, no, it's a chemistry issue. And it's kind of like coming up to a cancer patient and saying, snap out of it.
Yeah.
Would you ever do that in 1 billion years? Yet here's somebody with mental health issues. So what can be done, and how do you control your mental health issues?
I'm at a trace amount of medicine,
Okay.
which I will be for the rest of my life. I don't have a heavy dosage like some people do. You need to be patterned, especially if you're bipolar. You need to have kind of the same type of sleep patterns, eating patterns, that type of thing. And you need to have people around you that can understand that you might be taking the shift, that you're going to be getting into a manic episode. And basically it's usually because you're not sleeping enough, or you're not taking care of yourself. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be talked about with serotonin and that type of thing, but you shift and you're not well. And the best thing that I can say is if you feel that you're ever in that type of need, you're gonna know somebody that can be compassionate. Embrace them, let them know, and get out of public eye, and typically go to sleep, get balanced, get to your therapist.
The other thing that I've noticed is with friends and family members, there's no necessarily magic pill. It's more of a combination that you kind of have to shift things around, and every once in a while you have to change your meds.
Yep.
Why do you think that is?
Because your body changes, your chemistry changes, the way that it absorbs changes, the way that your mind is thinking changes. So some people do need to have the changes, and over time, over the last 30 years that I've been clinically diagnosed as bipolar, I've had a few changes, but it all comes back to a simple salt. It's called lithium, and it, Kurt Cobain, he made a fantastic song about it. But it's something that allows me to be able to have a balance where I have the gift, that's the energy and the creativity of what I have, but not enough of it.
Right.
But in essence, like I said, it's a chemical imbalance that is in your mind that goes through fluctuations, and the suicide rate of bipolars is just tragic. And also just natural organic death, because it does some nasty stuff to your body.
I did interview a gal recently, Katie Higley,
Yeah.
and one of the things that she talked about is she had a friend that had attempted suicide, and the message that they have is that it's okay to not be okay.
Oh yeah.
What does that mean to you?
What is normal? What is a stereotypical way that somebody thinks? So if it's okay not to be okay, you just find a balance point where you're not going to damage yourself or someone else or someone that you're responsible for. That is the topple point of the okay that you have to be able to get to. But when it comes down to it, there are trillions of multiples of ways of what's okay for certain people, but there's just a little bit of a fundamental line between basically damage to other individuals and yourself.
Well, I think it comes back to balance, life balance.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to do that. With Jessop's journal, and people hear me say this a lot, but this is my journal. I actually had the opportunity to go to Rustico and make this journal by hand. It's just like, okay. And they had this piece of leather, it's beautiful, beautiful, buttery, soft leather. But then in the middle, there's this part that has these scars, okay? And they're going, we're going to throw that away. Well, to me, life comes with scars. I mean, I've got them all over the place. Rustico has a hashtag called Leave Your Mark. So let me get official here, okay. Joel McKay Smith, how do you want to leave your mark?
I'd like to make as much of a difference for marginalized communities while making a couple nickels.
I think that's pretty well said. And that covers a lot of nets. Well, thank you so much for coming on Jessop's Journal today. We've got a couple other people we want to thank. Of course, Rustico. And now these guys, okay, here, check this out. Okay, come on, do you know? There we go. This is the folks from Five Wise. They make hand sanitizer. Got my own Jessop's Journal thing.
Hey, Andy. Hey, Steve.
But they also, of course, make some various adult beverages, we'll just say. And JW Custom Hats, guys that make all my hats, and Taylor Cooperative tries to make me look good. But of course, the guy that's making me look hopefully the best is that guy right over there. Hi Ed. Okay, he's my photographer, my collab, and all my stories. With another entry into Jessop's Journal and Joel McKay Smith, I'm Doug Jessop, ABC4 News.